Hey, this is Will Putney. I'm a record producer and engineer at Graphic Nature Audio in New Jersey. We're here today recording my drum library with Toontrack, and I wanted to kind of walk you through my setup and my mic placement and show you kind of what we did to get these drum sounds. So the first thing I wanted to go over is the kick drum. The way we track the drums for this, I have two kick-in mics. It's a Audix D6, which is a really kind of clicky, bright, really present mic, and then a Heil PR40, which is a bit more of a round mic, more of like a neutral, sort of balanced, dynamic microphone, and they pair really well together. They phase well, and they kind of give you like a balanced picture, and you can use both of those inside mics to really design how bright, how punchy, how warm you want your kick drum. So it's a cool pair for my kick in. The kick out is a D12 VR, which is sort of a remake of the classic AKG mic. It has an additional like EQ curve, which I really like. It gives it a little extra sub, a little extra high end. So it kind of was a nice modern touch to that mic. It makes for a really good kick out mic. In front of the kick, I have a Stam 47. It's a tube condenser. It's a really good, rich sounding mic, and it helps kind of give me this nice beefy low end ambience and tail to the kick drum. On top of this, which isn't really a kick drum mic per se, but I guess it's a part of the kick drum sound. This is a stereo ribbon mic by AEA, and it really gives me a lot of everything, but I do place it kind of low, so I am getting some short kick stuff that's usable in here and really pleasant sounding. This is really a nice mic to pick up the picture of the whole kit in front of it, but there is a good amount of kick drum in this too. So it's kind of a combination of all of these playing together. It really gives me my kick sound, and that's what we did for kick for this tracking session. So here's some of the close mics. I was gonna go over some placement stuff. We'll start with the snare. I have 3 microphones on the snare for this. Sometimes I'll just use 2 and I'll kind of bail on the condenser, but because of this, where I knew we wouldn't have cymbal bleed with the sampling, it's always fun to have an extra kind of flavor to that. I use a Beta 57 and a 201 that are kind of permanently fixed together, phase aligned, so they never move. And then next to it, I have a 414, which is my condenser mic. We kind of line these all up, but those 3 snare mics make up the different kind of picture from my top snare, and they all work together kind of the same way the kick drum does, where depending on the type of drum or the style of music, I'm able to sort of balance those, and with the 3 faders create like a different snare picture. Underneath, I have a 441 Sennheiser. It's my favorite bottom snare mic. And then another part of the snare picture is I use a Royer 121 over here for my kind of snare side mic, I'll call it. It's just a little further out, and it just gives me a little more body, sort of a balance between the top and the bottom of the snare. And, you know, depending on the style of music, sometimes that could be really loud part of the snare picture, or it gets tucked, but it's just another flavor to have. And these 5 mics sort of compile what becomes my snare sound that we use for the drum library. Toms, I have some vintage 421s. Here's another one here with the gold top. They all kind of sound a little different. We did a variety of shootouts to figure out which ones we like better for different toms. Shoot out your 421s because they're surprisingly all a little different. They're pretty much my main mics for my higher toms. I do like a RE20 on the low guys because there's like a smooth low into them, which I think sounds pretty cool on some of the bigger, boomier toms. For the hat, I like a AKG 480. It's been a pretty staple mic for my hi-hat for a few years now. Shout out to Machine for suggesting this one about a decade ago, and it's kind of lived on a hi-hat ever since. My cymbal picture is basically all these KM84s. They're my favorite crash mics by far. I always lean on them, and I just love the way they sound. They're never harsh, they don't hurt. They kind of pick up the whole picture of the cymbal, nice and punchy without any really brittle stuff, and they've just become my favorite cymbal mics for years and years. I recently started using these. These are these new Sennheiser 914s. I like them for sort of accent cymbals. I've been using it on Splash. I also have one on the China over there. It's very cool sounding. Pretty similar mic to that, to a KM84, but it's a little less, I it's a little carved out a little more, but it does something with the mid-range where I like how my accent cymbals feel a little more present in a mix with them. It's very subtle, but it's just a good workhorse mic too. And for the ride on this, we did a 451 XY setup. I do like when I'm doing sampling or overdubbing using stereo miking techniques for some of the rides. And it's just like a really cool way of not having just your ride cymbal exist in one side of the speaker. Another little room trick that we'll do sometimes, it worked out really cool for this sample pack, is I'll put a 47 behind the drummer and sort of have it pointing at the kick drum, which just gives you floor low end kind of beefiness. For kick drum and toms, it's really cool. And when you don't have the bleed, again, it's even usable for the snare and kind of adds to the texture of the whole kit. And then, you know, from here, we move out with different room pictures, but this is just a really great way of getting everything isolated. It's really easy to kind of treat this stuff, clean out tracks, a little EQ, and you pretty much have really, really detailed drum picture with everything we have going on here. So now getting into some of the overhead and room mic pictures that we use for this. Obviously we talked a little bit about the stereo ribbon in the front, also the 47 on the floor behind the kit. Now if we're going up above the kit, I have a pair of U67s that I really like for overheads. I have them positioned about 3 times the length away that the close mic crash KM84s are. That's just a great picture of the kit. The snare sounds awesome in those. Just really easy kind of no-brainer overhead room mics, you know? If we go further back from the kit, I think we're about 10 feet away. I go low with a pair of Coles. These are ribbon mics that kind of sit lower on the floor. They're just like dark and kind of cruddy, and they just pick up a lot of low end off the ground, and they sound really fat and awesome. And then a little further back, I have my far overhead picture. That's a Peluso P28. It's a really cool little tube mic that, you know, we've shot out a few mics in the room that kind of go really far and really wide, and they just give me really cool ambience. The snare's awesome with those. That's where you really start to hear the reverb, you know, effect of the room as you travel further out from the center of the kit. So we have 4 stereo room pictures all within, you know, 15 feet of the kit over here that I use, you know, when I'm designing a drum sound. The only other mic I think that we have is in the hallway. If you walk out this door right around the other side of this room, I just have a TLM Neumann pointing into the corner, which just gives me this cool reverberation and this really long hallway style reverb thing. That's again more of like an effect mic, but it sounds really cool and it's really fun to turn up and down and automate in a mix. And I think it gives you like a really usable hall style reverb to add to all of this room drum picture. There's definitely a lot going on. We put a lot of detail into this to make it really easy for you to just put a couple faders up and hear, you know, different room pictures and design different vibes for your drum tones. So yeah, that's it. That's all the stuff. 31 mics, lots of tricks. I hope you enjoy it.